we say, we don't want you to do it. We always want you to do it. We don't want you to do it. Well, I only want her to do it if she's going to be impeccable. If she's going to miss it, she's going to come in the very middle of things to where we don't have context for what we're speaking and where I have to bring up the context again to make it make sense. Like, we're not just like going up and eavesdropping on random conversations here. We're like trying to be more deliberate, precise, be on top, be on the tip point of consciousness so everybody gets understanding what we're saying. Otherwise, they get all confused, just like what I'm saying here, you know? Talking about impeccability, talking about not confusing ourselves, about loving ourselves fully, about seeing how important it is. So that's why we got to be on top of these things. And we're not going to be on top of it, then we're not going to be on top of it. It's not a big deal. If the listeners and the viewers want to be with us every day and become part of our team, then we're going to have to bring them in like we brought Mr. Dayton in this morning, you see. And but that means somebody's going to have to care about the viewers. And somebody's going to have to really care about them. I do care about the viewers, but I also just don't have the correct ability right now to be aware of when these things are going to be happening in a manner that will allow me to continue to do these things. I don't believe, but maybe we can add them to the song, you know. But I'm doing my best all the time to not control or direct focus in some way. But we also did just bring in the teaching and about we are able with our words to direct focus in a really amazing, phenomenal fashion. So as we trust to surrender, we move in this way, we move in that way. It's no problem. Of course, we have talked about working as a cohesive unit. It's been working out quite well sometimes. Very few, very seldom times have we worked out in the manner in which I had hoped. But every time we have actually worked out in the most perfect manner, in a manner I could not have expected nor hoped for. So, this has built the greatest trust in the world, so it's a wonderful, beautiful thing, thank goodness. Now, with our 20 people in the room, or however many have just joined this conversation, in the very end of the conversation, have we joined it? We at the very end. So, maybe not, maybe we're in the middle, can't tell for sure. Seemed like the end of that particular transmission when it comes to the DMT level experiential consciousness, that is understanding the higher lights and vibrations and the ways in which we can actually show this contrast to the world. And so this is discussing ways in which we can actually bring imagery to the world and show them things in consciousness. And this is also stuff that I don't want to share with viewers, actually. I'm not wishing to share these kinds of things. These are my secrets, it feels like. I'm like, oh, shoot. You know, I guess I could share it with you guys, but we've built no blueprint for you to understand where it is I come. I'm talking to my friend, my teammate, this person that I know in harmony with his unique frequency. I know this person, and so I know these things that are coming to him specifically, who he is. And so now that you rejoin the room, we can't talk to you about what we talk about privately because you're not tuned into that same conversation. And so if you were tuned into that conversation, then we'd be able to continue on with that conversation. But as I tried to bring you into it, just seeing, you know, maybe it is my fear or something. Maybe I'm, inaccurate in my evaluation of energy at this time. But as it turns out, I can feel already, no. There's a lot of force and a lot of confusion possibility going on this. And I love myself a lot. And so I give everything to myself in fullness. I give everything to myself impeccably. I'm sorry for the videos that were not fully through. For me, I would never have done this to you myself. I'm working with people that do not find impeccability to be of their uttermost importance when it comes to the transference of information for the liberation of all beings here within consciousness, the liberation of all of themselves. But we are learning and growing together, and all of these things that have happened, I imagine, match, even if not by our own intentional impeccability, because we have rolled the moment so beautifully. I'm sure that you will find that no matter if we've made any mistakes, they still reach beautiful impeccabilities with no ability to bring any confusion because of the way the now moment has guided us so gorgeously and so graciously. And still, I will say that I would not bring you in. See that this has been happening for a long time. And so this is some big way on how this has become a great, wonderful perfection for all of us, you see, because this teaching would not have been able to come to you directly in this way unless it was happening to you directly. And so you, the viewers, for those whom I do not know, are the ones being affected by this break in transmission. And finally, it is so many times to where it is obvious, you can say, hey, it's this guy's fault, that guy's fault, whatever it is. It's my fault. I'm very sorry for my lack of ability to create and refine the energy around me to be impeccable and match me. I will not continue lazily on as if you're not here, as if I want to continue with my other friend. Obviously, this wasn't happening in the beginning, and we were testing different things through expression. You see, like, is this farce? Oh, okay, no. Is this? Oh, no. You go, oh, no. And you see, it becomes a very beautiful teaching through honest authenticity, through expression of everything that happened accurately, actually, directly, exactly, and impeccably. We transfer fully. You don't do things lazily, cause confusion, embellish things, lead people to assume. No, we do our very best to not do that. Now, all we can do is our best, though. So if you have done this accidentally, you did your best, no problem. In any moment that we simply didn't even have the awareness to be impeccable in this way was all times in which we couldn't really hold ourselves to any kind of problematic judgmental viewing. And also, if we ever come to the true view anyway, we see that you are just observers, we are all observers. There's no reason to be harsh on ourselves, but there's plenty of reason to see and express any frequency, expression, harshly or to any which way in which it actually bears or bodes chord shape, because whether there be harshness or smoothness or whatever it is, there's no imbalance within the equanimity of these frequencies and the ways they are showing ourselves perfectly. And so we can look at them actually for what they are and express them authentically, fully, without the judgment or attack or defense of their chord shape or nature or whatever frequential texture they bring to us. For our movement, for our learning, for our growth as our great wisdom teachers. So the greatest blessings are they always, whether they be doubt or fear or whatever way they happen to come to us in this mirror. These ways in which our self has come to us embodied in a form and a frequency that will lead us to our liberated viewing of ourselves truly, where we come and see ourselves freely, and we surrender now away from the fight, away from the strife, away from the divide, and we come into the united place inside, which was never divided. It has never been divided and could never be divided. And we may even have a funny laughing glee when we see how silly it is to think that there is ever any enemy or friend in within we in within we. Funny words saying. Ah, so you're going to be brought into a teaching about DMT reality and then bringing into focus visualization that would bring in higher spectrums of light for the learning of the earth. And so I would show people through maybe even virtual reality, graphic design of some kind, these things that very precisely shape actual consciousness. And so if anybody were to try to do this and form a very similar thing of truth, but not quite truth, we had spoke how this could lead to some form of great confusion, within the reader, to where it would look so close that then they could not see the image just after that was the actual image. So we would want to do something like this if we were to do something like this in a way of great impeccability. And then I started to talk to him about how I had had experience where I'd had DMT consciousness, level consciousness. This is the way in which I would speak of its level because of how beautiful and deep and high its frequency, how amazing it is, the very small geometries that make up the spaces that move everything not separately in this kind of a form. This is the way in which I explain non-separate consciousness. Extremely aware, alive, equal to us all, liberated in every way, free from judgment, extremely amazing. And it's the layering and the movement of vibrational frequencies that we have yet to perceive, but we exist with always amazingly, simultaneously, synchronizing with all beings, really phenomenal. And so DMT being the greatest level consciousness that I could ever imagine. The greatest bridge and reflection of that I can ever imagine. If you ever touch consciousness, ever in your life, um, it will be through the release of your own DMT. And so, you can not like DMT and other medicine ceremonies, but these things are the genetic precursors or the neurological precursors of what it is like to have what we call a spiritual experience. And these are the types of experiences that can save your very life, that can do the most amazing thing for the whole of consciousness. There are ways to transcend blockages that were unable to be transcended for thousands of years through the enacting of intention, coming into proper alignment with what is and who we are and all of consciousness, and allowing then surrender to ourselves to see the great bliss, the great majesty, the great prestige that is available to us, not through virtual reality or some stupid graphic designing. We can point with those things in viewing, and I'm all about that, and wish not diminish anything out of the equality of all that is by using the word of stupidity, but to say in some way retort to the previous frequency in a manner that wished to, by judgment, neglect the great beauty that was dimethyltryptamine, DMT, the God particle, as they say, or the spirit molecule. Yeah, the God particle being the Higgs boson. And I would correct myself here now for the reason of impeccability, always transparently giving every word in verbiage without omission. And this will allow me to very precisely stay with the breath with DMT level consciousness and come into the greatest understanding of what all is. And so for anybody who wishes to say DMT level consciousness is of lesser form than what is the greatest nature of all of consciousness, you would be wrong. So thank you for this very unique avenue of teaching for the morning, Miss Ray and Mr. Dayton. I would like to finish now. Thank you. I hope you all have a beautiful day. And if you go into medicine ceremony, make sure that you go in a good way, in a way that reflects unconditional love for all beings everywhere without one exception. No matter what you think of them, no matter what you think of yourself from your arrogant viewpoint, everything here is equanimity and is perfect consciousness. And as soon as we come into this awareness, we can leave the fight and begin to grow into who we actually are. Aloha, nui loa, mahalo, matake oyase.